Oh, hello Internet and welcome to the Free-to-Play Cast, episode 128. It is February 10th. You'll be watching this on February 12th. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man. Like we do every week, we're going to run through the news, run through our weekly bombs, your weekly bombs, the questions of the week. We'll get down to the nitty-gritty. Joining me, as he always does, you know him, you love him, you want more of him, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you?
That's a lot of stuff. Are you sure we have time for all that?
And
that.
Yeah, it's like we try and keep the show around 45 minutes every week. And sometimes we go a little long, 47, 48. Last week we went like 39 or 41, you know. But we try and keep it around 45 minutes. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so this is going to be challenging. But before we get started, next week there will be no free-to-play cast. So, vacation. Yeah, nothing big. Just
no vacation for you. Back to the mine.
Right.
Keep farming gold.
Vacation next week, so we'll record episode 129 the following week. So no show next Thursday, but you will have one the Thursday after that. Also, on the site, lots and lots and lots of giveaways going up now. We had some problems with the giveaway system. The ones where 5 or 10 or 20 people win are fine because we control that manually on the back end of the servers. But the automatic ones where we had like 5,000 keys and all you had to do was click and get a key, they weren't quite working there for a little bit. So we did have the engineers taking a look at it. We believe we have it fixed. We've run some tests on the development area, and it looks good, so those will be pumped back into the live system shortly. But Smite God giveaways, all kinds of giveaways are up now that you can enter, and those ones totally work. So that's, yay, they work.
For now.
Oh, what a nightmare. What a nightmare. It kept giving a key away and then trying to give that key away a second and third time. Oh,
are you sure you should go on vacation?
Right.
That's right.
Well, hey, I don't do that, so you know.
Just so you guys know, if anything breaks while he's gone, it's gonna stay broken because I ain't fixing it.
All right, let's slide over to the news and get started. Oh, Mr. Winter. So the mighty quest for epic loot actually finally launched on the PC, and shame on me, I thought it launched a long time ago.
It's one of those games that's been in some sort of alpha, beta, whatever thing forever, and like, so when it actually launches, you're like, really? It's been out.
Yeah, I thought this was already launched. Yeah, so this is Ubisoft's kind of dungeon crawling, tower defense, or castle defense type game. And literally, I was in alpha. Man, I was still with MMO Bomb the first time, so that would have been over 2 years ago, or just under 2 years, right around the 2-year mark, playing in alpha and then in a closed beta after that. So when the news broke, I was like, wait, is this already out? This has got to be a console announcement. This has got to be a console announcement. Going, no, it's PC. It's PC. So have you spent any time in the mighty quest for epic loot yourself?
I haven't. I just remember Spunkify played it a little bit. I think he did a bomb live of it or a first look or something. Maybe you did the first look and I looked at that. But yeah, I remember Spunkify doing it and talking about it. I remember his opinions of it were rather mixed. And again, just reading what you wrote and reading the some of the comments and so on. Maybe they fixed some of that. It was enough that I was like, it seemed a little well, a combination of a tiny bit of pay to win, and also a little bit of just imbalance with how the whole process worked. So maybe if you've looked at it or if you've been following a little better, you can give better insight on.
Yeah. So initially, the first couple of times that I jumped into this one, there were definite aspects of. I don't know if it was. Okay, it was flat out pay to win. And I'm trying to be gentle, but no, I can't on this one. Early in, there were things that you were like, whoa. Okay, so if I sink enough money in here, then I negate a bunch of these other things. And so, yes, and right off the bat, that was huge in the forums, even in alpha. It was like, wait a minute, I know the cash shop, I mean, we're in alpha for crying out loud, but even in alpha, the cash shop is looking kind of hinky.
You can't think at any stage of the development that this is okay, basically.
Right. It wasn't like, hey, this thing that you can acquire in the cash shop and in the game is unbalanced. It's this cash shop stuff is flat out screwy. And so they tried some various things there. You really have to like this type of game, first off. I mean, I guess niche is a good word for it, right?
The feeling I get from it is it's almost like a mobile game where, like Liam Neeson, you go and invade somebody's castle, and then later on when you're offline, they can invade your thing back. And just a little more fancy, polished up kind of version of that. Am I kind of hitting it there?
You're kind of hitting it in the broad strokes. Yeah, I mean, you're going through your castle. The object is for you to gain loot from other castles or buy things from the cash shop, traps and minions and monsters and things, and place them in your castle. So from that aspect, yes. Where the game differs a little bit from some of those mobile type games is that when you're actually invading a castle, it goes into that isometric ARPG Diablo type gameplay.
It plays better.
Yeah, it plays a lot.
It's not just click, click, point, point, click. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it is kind of because it's Diablo-ish, but it's
right.
a little better.
So you don't have that like you see in mobile games where it's just a sheer numbers battle. You click on the castle you want to attack, and it runs some numbers behind the scenes and tells you if you win or not. You actually do have to do this. You have abilities that you can upgrade and things like that. So. Even there is the possibility of taking on things that are a little bit higher than you and still succeeding based on player skill, which I do like that. It's not a sheer numbers game. Some of the castles that the player built castles are usually pretty good. Some of the default castles right off the bat are just they're a mess. And there's still a little bit of a mess. Now, in the game's defense, a lot has changed with the cash shop. I still am not willing to take the pay-to-win title off of it yet, though, because there are still some things that are influencing gameplay. I mean, you can get trap packs and things like that on the cash shop, rather than having to earn them through the game. Yes, you can do it both ways, but you can acquire it with money a lot faster than I can by playing it. And again, it's not game breaking because the difference. We're not talking about like an Alad's Online with the gems where you're going to grind for months if you don't buy these. We're talking about you're going to have to play the game for a couple of days. So it's at least bearable to me.
Sure.
One thing that they did change though, and it was back in like November, they put in this boost mode. Did you see that one at all?
No, I missed that. What's that about?
So. What it attempted to do was pretty cool. They attempted to speed up the gameplay and make things faster when you're actually trying to sack somebody's castle. Because it could get a little slowy. You've played Diablo. You get
it.
I don't...
It's clicking that same thing over and over.
Yeah, it's not great. I don't know if maybe it's just I haven't reacclimated to the speed of the game and when I should use my abilities and when I shouldn't when I'm attacking somebody's castle, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's just if I spend some more time with it, I'll be okay. But I can't quite get the feel of the speed that the game moves at now when I'm attacking another castle. So it's a bit of an odd little... I like what you were trying to do, but is it just me that can't do this? And I've seen other comments where people aren't particularly fond of the boost mode, so I'd like to think it's not just me being terabad at the game, but that's a definite possibility.
I mean, is it just a way that they made to try and make that grind a little less, that you can get it done faster?
Yeah, like I said, in concept, good idea. Let's push the action along, push you into the gameplay and out of the menus, because obviously this type of game does have, SimCity-esque menus when you're building your own castle and deciding on whose castle you want to attack. So get them out of the menus and get them into some nice action gameplay, all for it. But I really haven't caught on to it yet, and I don't know if it's just me.
What about, one of the guys mentioned in comments, is something I was worried about. The little time that I tried delving into those kind of mobile games, he says, I liked the game until level 21 knight raided my level 4-ish castle. And
yeah.
It's like, what is the... did they ever put in any kind of defense against that if you're a new player, or are you just going to get stomped all the time?
Well, yeah, there are things that they've put in that can kind of mitigate that as far as upping power on the castle's side of the board when that happens, but it's not enough. You can still get your castle just steamrolled. Like that. So that's something that I think is going to have to be tweaked over time. And they've already started tweaking it. I just don't think it's there yet to totally counterbalance that. To be honest, though, I don't think you're ever going to have a system that's going to stop that unless you just flat out say,
But you can only raid castles with a certain level range.
Exactly.
That seems pretty simple.
Yep, that's exactly the type of thing you would have to put on it. Where if you're level 20, you can only raid castles that are level 15 to 25.
Something like that.
Something like that would make a lot of sense and would go a long way. And they may already have it. I mean, it's been maybe a month or so since I've played it. So viewers, if something like that or a game changer as far as getting stomped by high levels has been added, by all means, put it in the comments. I'm not claiming to know everything about this particular game. Here's my concern, and let me ask you this. It's already a niche kind of experience. You already know whether you like the tower defense type gameplay and the ARPG sacking a dungeon type gameplay. So it's already on the smaller side of the MMO audience spectrum. How long is something like this gonna last? I mean, to me, I thought, do you remember Game Globe? Square Enix's thing?
Very vaguely.
I thought that was a blast, and it was like a one-off. It was going to be a small audience, but it also was so player-generated, like this is, so player-generated that I thought, okay, that could pretty much last forever because the players are making your content, all of it. And in this case, you have pretty much the same thing, but then Game Globe shuts down very quickly. So I'm concerned about longevity with this type of title and the willingness to sink money into it if you get even a vibe of it not lasting very long.
Yeah, and you wonder how much of an issue that is with some of the smaller games. Like maybe that's why, we can debate about this when we're not quite sure exactly because we haven't looked at every part of it, but that's maybe why a lot of them have these somewhat more aggressive, as you think, cash shops, because they kind of realize that they need that kind of income from a smaller number of players, and they need it a little quickly to keep the, because even though it's by Ubisoft, which is a pretty big company, they still have to produce a return. The team still making it has to produce a return fast enough to let Ubisoft, keep pouring money into development and so on. So, yeah, it is. It's almost kind of a vicious cycle. And we talk about this all the time. We're like, well, why can't you have a niche game? Why does everything have to be for the masses? Well, this is kind of a little bit why. This is why they tend to make games like that aren't necessarily in the niche, not made for a smaller audience, unless you can get it just right or have a formula that can expand it beyond what you would have thought. I mean, we would originally look at something like Minecraft. I might have thought that would be a niche game, but it's exploded beyond all expectations.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing that kind of is why you have games that work like that. That are, you don't see the niche games being around quite as much as the big blockbuster stuff.
I think at the end of the day, I give them, if I have to review, right, a 0, 1 through 10 type deal, I'm going to give Mighty Quest for Epic Loot right now about a 6. It's fun for what it is. I have cash shop concerns still, 2 years later. It's 2 years. It's amazing. Still have cash shop concerns 2 years later. I'm going to hold off on having the boost in there because I think maybe it's just because I haven't played enough with the boost that I've got to retime some abilities and things that I use. I don't like, to me, the one thing I really don't like, and this isn't pay to win, but the one thing I don't like about the cash shop is that the classes are in the cash shop. To me, that's something that I think should be in the game.
How many classes do you have to start with?
I believe it's 4 right now.
And there's how many more in the cash shop?
Well, I mean a total of 4.
Oh, total of 4.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm going to pull that up and check here because I'm not quite sure. But I just like, I think you could pick from 3 initially. Let's see, game info. Here we go. Yeah, so there's still 4. We've got the archer, we got the knight, we've got the mage, and we've got the runaway. At the time, the runaway wasn't in there yet. So that is fairly new, to me at least. And then the cash shop itself doesn't, and I think I might have misspoke here. It doesn't sell the actual heroes themselves. It's these attack packs for the heroes. And if I said flat out heroes, I apologize. That's not what I meant. They sell these attack packs. So they give you an extra costume, a pet, an extra inventory page, an XP boost, and a magic find boost. So they're all like cosmetic,
not
but
bad, yeah.
It's not bad, but I don't like that those things that are actual class or character specific are in the cash shop. I don't know. I don't like it. It's not pay to win, and you can get this shit other ways. I know. I just don't like it.
That doesn't bother me as much. When you said glass
Well,
packs,
yeah, because you get an inventory page, so you're happy.
oh no, when you said that, I thought they were talking like selling powers or something, or weapons.
No,
And I
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
oh
no,
my
no,
god,
no,
yeah.
no,
But
no.
no, whatever.
No.
So sensitive.
I don't know. So if you're a fan of Mighty Quest for Epic Loot, let us know your opinions below. Again, full disclosure, I probably haven't played it in about two months or so. So if I'm a little behind on an update here, by all means, so that all the viewers are corrected and have up-to-date information, throw it in the comments below. No problem being told I'm stupid.
I do it to him every day.
Every day of our lives. So you wrote up... Oh, I touched the table. Shit. You wrote up an article this week, one of your awful ideas, and it was doing away with dungeons. What? And we're talking about our typical MMORPG type games, Perfect World, Forsaken World, World of Warcraft, that type of MMORPG. So what was the idea here? What happened?
Well, it's because
Everybody loves dungeons.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do, and even I like doing dungeons too. But the thing that you realize so often is, and this is sort of the idea I had is not necessarily the perfect solution, but the sort of the issue you have with a lot of MMOs is there's something that gives you the best loot. Whatever that something is, it gets run to death, to the detriment of everything else. In a typical MMO, you might level the max, then you stand around in the city waiting to form dungeon groups or whatever. That whole world out there they made, for you to do your leveling in, doesn't matter because it doesn't give good enough loot. And even in dungeons, even if the game has 6 or so endgame dungeons, what happens? People want to run the easy one, the one that gives the best loot per hour or whatever. Or sometimes, if it's like the big tough raid that gives this particular kind of really good loot, that's what they run more of. And you just see people running that one thing over and over. And I'd like to see, especially, and again, this is one possible way to help mitigate that, is if you didn't have dungeons, which are sort of, because it's what we're conditioned to think of, that's where the good loot is. And even in the games where that isn't the case, you still kind of gravitate towards those, I think. And I'd like to see a game that doesn't make you gravitate towards those, because people are given the choice. Even if the open world is this vast, beautiful area that's wonderful and lovely and has all sorts of cool stuff going on, you're still going to cram yourself into the dungeon because it gives the best loot over the period of time that you're looking for. So I'm thinking that maybe games should really focus less on dungeons and more on the open world stuff, because that's, you like dungeons, but you also liked, to some extent, you liked leveling up, you liked exploring and so on. You like traveling around as opposed to this exact, being in a dungeon feels almost like being on an assembly line. You're going to do this exact same series of stuff every time, as opposed to going out and exploring and having fun and doing that sort of stuff. So I'd like to see maybe a little more focus, even if it means you have to completely do away with the dungeons entirely, because otherwise people are going to go there and think that's what you do. That might be the only way to get people to do the open world stuff and do that sort of things instead.
What are we gonna do with you? So I agree, but disagree. So it's well, wait. I agree with your conclusion and why. I disagree that dungeons being abolished should be the answer. I totally get the treadmill effect of dungeons. To me, though, I love dungeons. Love them. Love them, love them, love them. Love raids. I love that type of specific instanced group challenge where it's a set scenario, and yes, the first couple of times, you're going to have fun and it's challenging, and then you just steamroll it the X hundredth times after that. So I agree with your assertion to get why is the loot always in that spot. Mm-hmm. I can go with you there. But I don't want to get rid of dungeons. I love them too much. I just freaking love them, man. Put me in a 10 or a 25-man raid group. Awesome. Let's do it.
Even that 30th time when you've already face rolled through it. And there's no
even that 30th time. I mean, I play Final Fantasy XIV a lot. And one of the big design flaws with that game that I'll be very vocal about on any channel, including this one, is this exact thing. Where each patch, we're getting new dungeons, which is great because the patches come typically every 3 months. So there is a bit of a grinding treadmill, but at least it's 3-month chunks before you've got new treadmills to grind, if that makes sense.
I get that. I mean, if they do update new dungeons every 3 months, that's pretty good.
Right, but we do have that where Okay, we've got the 3 new dungeons. There are expert ones. We've got to farm these tokens to get gear. Which one of the 3 expert ones is the easiest and fastest to run so that we could just farm at the beginning of the week, get our weekly tokens, and be done with the dungeons for the week? It does become that still.
And it's not like having open world stuff means there isn't going to be a farm. I mean, I've got other ideas on how to maybe mitigate that, but that's for another time.
And when you think back, though, earlier MMORPGs did exactly what you're talking about. You know, you have things like Tibia, which was totally outworld, and there were no instance dungeons like that. And you've got EverQuest Next on the horizon, which I know you're a fan of what they say they're doing, even though you haven't been able to see it in practice yet, as far as keeping things open world and kill 10 of these, getting rid of that type of stuff. Star Citizen is another one on the horizon that they're...
Talk about that.
Oh, no, what's up?
It raises every red flag in the book for me in terms of how they're handling their money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money.
So on.
Unfortunately, we won't be talking about it too much on this show, but maybe to bash it every once in a while. I don't know.
And then the thing that all those older games had too, if I'm not mistaken, was you had all that. They had a lot more open world stuff, and a lot more focus on it. And I talk about Guild Wars 2 being kind of the same way, in that dungeons are easy for the developers to balance. They can say,
yes,
all right, it's going to take you 30 minutes, you're going to get X amount of loot, period. And it's a lot harder necessarily to do that with open world, where you can go here, you can go here, you can go here, go here.
Yeah, and you could have 12 players in the zone on one given night and 115. How do you scale the challenge like that?
But I like to think that in that same notion that we're trying to steer away from just, kill 10 rats, turn in the quest and go on and on. We're finding out ways to kind of do that with different games, whether it is Guild Wars 2 or EverQuest Next, some of the stuff they're talking about in Skyforge even. They're finally realizing that's not necessarily the be-all and end-all to how questing should go. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe we're figuring out that maybe we're eventually going to iterate and figure out how better to do open world stuff and have it reward properly, not too much, not too little, and make that as at least somewhat more balanced a thing, or as balanced a thing as dungeons currently are.
I don't know, man. You take my dungeons away, and I'm probably not playing.
So you wouldn't play a game if EverQuest Next, something like that, doesn't have dungeons. If it's all that open worldish kind of stuff, you're not going to play it. I mean, I'll agree there are issues. Again, I talk about Guild Wars 2. An issue with that is having 50 people zerging a single boss. That's not great. And again, I see Guild Wars 2 as sort of an iteration of this sort of thing, that even they're starting to figure out how to change that to make it a little better. Future games will probably do the same thing a little bit, too.
Well, and Guild Wars 2, since we were talking about that one specifically, it took a step away from the traditional dungeons. Yes, they still had dungeons, but
people only run like 2 of them all the time.
Right, and then they also don't really have an established, tank DPS healer trinity.
And I'm not saying any of that is great. I'm not saying that's the way to do it. I'm just saying in terms of generally how they work, open world versus dungeon kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I don't play Guild Wars 2 all that often specifically because of that.
Mm-hmm. Which is fine. I'm not saying
that's just my flavor. Now, to answer the other question, which is a tough one, if EverQuest Next doesn't have dungeons and things like that, will I play it?
Assuming that they make it so that it's not just zergy 50 people running around.
Right. Well, the nature of our job here, yes, I'll play it. But if I'm looking at it outside the scope of MMO Bomb, there would have to be something really enticing that I wanted to see or take part in before. I mean, I'm just naturally drawn to want to check out EverQuest Next anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, yes, I would initially try it, of course, even if I didn't work for the website. But would I stay, which is an interesting topic we're going to talk about in a second, would I stay a year from then? They'd have to have some really compelling endgame content, and that's kind of where Guild Wars totally fails for me. I enjoyed all the way up to max level and then kind of petered away from the game because there was no content that I enjoyed doing at that point.
So basically you don't even care about the open world, just dungeons. Give me nothing but dungeons.
I like a good open world, and I think Guild Wars 2 succeeded on that front to a certain extent. But open world longevity, I just haven't seen it executed to the point where I'm like, this is awesome, And maybe I expect too much, or maybe the tech isn't there, or maybe the ideas just aren't there yet. I don't know. Open world for long periods of time, to me, becomes just another treadmill, and a boring one at that.
Sure.
So, I don't know. I like dungeons. I think is the overall arcing. I just spit all over my microphone.
Ew.
The overall arcing point I'm trying to make there. I like Dungeons. Mike Byrne, 2014. Oh, 2015. See? I did it already. Haven't written it on a check, but... All right, so next up, player retention in MMO RPGs, particularly free-to-play ones, is what we're talking about. It ain't that good. It just ain't that great. So Super Data, this has got to be one of your favorite organizations. You like always reference and always quote
Anybody
these
who
guys.
gives me numbers.
You love these guys. So Super Data reports that 6.21% of players who log into a new free-to-play MMO in the first month after its launch will still be there 12 months later. So 6 out of every 100 people will stay. 94 bailed in the first year. First off, surprised by the stat? You wrote this piece, so maybe you can go a little in depth with some of your thoughts here.
It's maybe a little lower than I expected. I mean, we all know that MMOs drop off after that initial rush when everyone gets in. I would have thought maybe closer to like 10 or 15%, but now that I think about it, when you see how many new games come out, if everyone can only really grab onto 1 or 2 new games a year, I guess it makes sense when there's so many out there that, you'd have to have... I mean, I didn't... What are the numbers? But that's like 1 out of 16 or so, basically. So if just 16 new games launch and you can only handle like 1 new one getting into it per year, then yeah, it kind of makes sense.
And we should disclaim here that Super Data probably defines MMO just slightly differently than we do, right?
A little more broad than us, because they sometimes include MOBAs, free-to-play shooters, so on and so forth. But even just taken as a slice of all free-to-play games, it's pretty good. That's pretty decent data.
6 out of 100 leave in a year. Here's another one though that was on the data, which is to me is actually a little more surprising. I don't know if it kind of hit you that same way. I would never have seen this. So players who join a game later in a game's life cycle are even less likely to stick around as players who log in for the first time 12 months after launch. They only have a 3% chance of sticking around for a month after that.
Yeah, and that's the one I wonder. I agree. I kind of wonder about that one too. I mean, I sort of posted, hey, maybe you should not invest all your marketing money in the initial launch. But now seeing that, I'm kind of like, maybe you should.
Right.
I mean, I think there's kind of a balance in between. Like maybe it shouldn't be right at launch when your game is terrible and has server crash and whatever. A year later, it's probably too late. So maybe kind of in between, a month or 2 down the road. But yeah, I mean, and I wonder. I would be interested. I wish they could figure some way to do this based on like expansions or other times when a game would have a big kind of influx of players. Like how much does that influence how well people stick around? I wish we could see some data on that.
Yeah, the days and months after initial launch, like you said, I was only surprised that the number became so small at 1 year. I wasn't surprised that it went down. I mean,
yeah.
As soon as the game launches, 2 million people log in. A month later, there's 400,000 there. And we all see that. I was surprised that at the 1 year mark it fell as low as 6.21%. This stat, this 3% stat, though, really caught me by surprise. Because I would have thought, just looking objectively at it, that if you jump into a game later, a year after it launches, 10 months after it launches, generally there's something that drew you to that game, whether it was a friend, Jason saying, hey, Mike, come check this game out, whether it was the IP, whether it was a review you read or a video you watched. Generally, there was something that drew you to the game. It wasn't something you were watching ahead of time because you didn't play it at launch, So something drew you to the game. And generally, at that point, you're getting a more polished product, like it or not, right? I mean, day 1 versus day 1 in month 10 are drastically different system and performance-wise in just about every MMO that launches. So I would have thought that this number would have had a better stick rate. Obviously, we're not talking about as big a sample size right? We're talking about a very small group of people compared to the big group of people that go in at launch. But percentage-wise, I would have thought the stick would have been a little higher. Am I just nuts thinking that?
I wonder, maybe the point of it is that when the game initially launches and it has all the hype and whatever built up around it, that's when the big fans are going to get in there. Like if you, I'm going to take Final Fantasy XIV as an example. You know, when that launched, if you were a Final Fantasy fan, or maybe you played the old version or the old Final Fantasy XIV or whatever, you got in there. Now it's about almost a year and a half later. I wasn't really that into it. If I check it out now, I'm probably not a huge Final Fantasy fan. I'm not someone who's going to be that into it. So I guess it makes sense that the people who are really into it and who are going to stick with it are the ones who are there right away, or at least have a chance of sticking with it. Whereas now, the people who are going to look at it are just sort of like, I've heard about it, I'll go check it out a little bit. They don't have any real connection to it, as opposed to the ones who were looking at it right away. So I guess maybe on that level, that's why it works out like that.
Do you think this data makes MMO development houses a little bit nervous?
I think it makes their marketing squad a little nervous. They're like, what do we do?
Probably. Probably gets them a little on edge. I'm honestly surprised at how big the number was. That was all. Obviously, we all know that they'll keep going down until they shut the game down.
Well,
but
although no, they actually said Superdata said I believe 2 years later was kind of the stabilization point. Like after 24 months, I think they said it was when you'll generally stabilize.
So
I have to reread the
So
report
you've got to survive to the 2-year mark first.
Yes,
And then you've got to determine if your stabilized population is enough to support
yes
what you're actually doing.
What the worst thing is when they get that good thing after like the first couple months and think that, oh wow, this is how much money we're gonna make.
Right? I don't know.
Especially if you're selling like super pre-release packages and lifetime subscriptions and that sort of thing. It's like, yeah, that's not gonna last.
$200 lifetime subs, yay! I don't know, surprising data. Check out the article. It's really interesting, especially if you like the back end, the economics and stuff like that of our favorite hobby here with MMORPGs. Check it out. Definitely a great read. Nice job on that one, Jason. Let's slide over and do the weekly bombs. Mr. Winter, you're up first, sir.
All right, I'm going to give a dub bomb to Valve customer service tech Gabe Newell. That is apparently his new job. Because a person who was having trouble getting through to Valve customer support just emailed Gabe directly. And
What?
Gabe responded and helped him.
So what happened?
Like I'm just reading an article. It's on Kotaku, and it just, like I said, a guy, like I said, he had an issue. He said, he's really, really polite, really apologetic. He's like, Gabe, I know you're busy with your schedule. I thought, I just would put it to the test. Do you think you'll reply faster than Steam support? I gave him a week head start. Gabe responded. He got the guy's info. Maybe didn't deal with the problem directly. Maybe handed it off to someone or whatever. And then afterwards, the guy's like, yeah, everything got fixed fine. I'd like to talk about this, but I know if I do, everyone's going to email you with all their problems whenever. And Gabe was like, yeah, no problem. Just put it out there.
I really like Gabe Newell. I just
How can
really,
you not at this point?
I just really like him. This is totally off topic, but you brought up Valve, and so I want to ask a question from somebody that takes a look at the economics and stuff in the background. Is Valve ever going to go public? Ever?
I don't know why they should. I mean,
they would be blue chip or damn near right off the bat.
yeah.
Right off the bat.
But I mean, I think as we show with this, and other stuff, Gabe's not just all about the money. That's the thing. He'd rather probably keep it in his hands, keep it in his house.
He just doesn't want to report to somebody.
There's that too. Yeah.
He would still obviously probably maintain majority, kind of like Zuckerberg does with Facebook. But then you still have technically bosses. I don't know. Just seems like, man, if he wanted it, that dude could. Well, he can already buy islands, but so it's like at this point, I guess, how much more do you really need? So totally off topic. Apologies. My bomb. Oh god. My bomb's an A bomb to a game called Global Strike by 321 Game, and I believe it's N Games.
Oh well, there you go.
It's a browser-based shooter. Yeah.
Oh my God, he can't even. It's so bad he can't even talk about it.
Yeah, and last week I was pretty rough on Elvenar with good reason. But this, I thought, Elvenar is going to be the worst one that I talk about on the free-to-play cast this year, and then a week later, I'm playing Global Strike, and I didn't even bother doing a first look. I didn't even bother. I was 15 minutes into it, and I was like, no, I am not. I got crucified for putting Elvenar out there. I'm not doing Global Strike.
Maybe if you just do it as kind of like a funny kind of review. Like, this is the terrible thing that happens.
Here's the honest truth, though, on the Elvenar thing, right? So, honestly, when we do first looks, we really don't have too much of a choice. If something new comes out, even though we walk into it knowing this is going to be a train wreck, we got to put a first look out there. And while we do opinions in first looks to a certain extent, we don't blast a game or hype up a game, or that's not the point of the first look. The first look is to just run you through the gamut of how the game starts, and some of that stuff. This is the show where we blast them. I honestly considered, though, for the Elvenar first look, I honestly considered doing a 30-second first look video.
Oh my God.
Where I had the logo come up, I had the theme music, cut to the introduction, jump into the game, say, don't play it, and run the end credits. I honestly considered doing it. And then I was like, that's not true to the first look.
Yeah.
It's funny, and it may be accurate, right? But it's not true to the spirit of first look. Global Strike, however, back to my original point, terrible. Awful, 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 awful shooter. Awful shooter. Even in the realm of browser shooters, this is bad. Really, really bad. Go watch the trailer that's on mmobomb.com. This is their produced trailer. I can't make this shit up. Spelling campaigns wrong in the trailer.
Oh.
Advertising that they have solo campaigns and spelling campaigns wrong as it lens flares into the screens and then disappears. I saw it, I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. It's not worth a first look. There isn't enough there that I could make anything longer than 5 minutes. So we're not going to do that one. Plus, we still have H1Z1 to do as they continue to add things to it. So we're not going to do a first look on Global Strike. But if you want to laugh, you don't have to download anything. Just pull up your browser.
No, I have to check this out now. I haven't looked.
And give it a go. It's bad. From the viewers, Ren the Rose, long-time name. I remember that name from the last time. A-bomb for.
Yeah, what does that say? Oh, it was.
Oh, okay. I had to read
yeah.
the rest of it. Monley Ohms, death. Lead animator of Red vs. Blue. I had to read lead animator there to figure out what that is. He was an inspiration for me to work harder and never give up. I cried through my leveling 58 to 60 grind in Terra Online and will miss him dearly. Even if I only met him for 10 minutes, he was my idol in my life and helped me become who I am today. That sucks, Ren. You're absolutely right.
I will say, though, if he cried through his level 58 to 60 grind, that's a dedicated player, though, that he's not going to stop playing to mourn.
Ren's a woman, but yes, you're right.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. That's okay. Ren.
I was thinking like Ren and Stimpy. You know?
No, Ren the Rose. So yeah, that A-bomb sucks. By the way, a lot of people that put bombs on the show this week for this, they also answered the question of the week. So you may hear some of these names come up a couple of times because they had good stuff on both. So I took them both. Go ahead, sir.
All right. This is from Kesta S24 or Kestas 24. This is an A-bomb to Capcom for their fighting game Rise of Incarnates for using peer-to-peer system, which was horrible for many reasons, especially for a PvP game. Hope it's only for early access and will be fixed before launch. Yeah, that reminds me of my experience with Vindictus, which had the same thing and was pretty much unplayable. And that was a PvE game where I could at least maybe pretend to hang out and do stuff, but for a PvP fighting game to have that sort of...
As peer-to-peer here is is spelled P-I-E-R, so like my brain immediately was like, to docks? I don't know.
Which is funny because
then I got it.
You go down to a dock to go to the island to fight stuff.
This is true. Toll Short says, "Da bomb to Chris Roberts and his company for their Speaking of Star Citizen,
Yeah.
to Bob to Chris Roberts and his company for their constant connection to their players and always providing seas of information to us. Also, his presentation at DICE was very nice, sending the message that all companies should embrace their communities and approach them as the single most important part of game development. Great approach. I agree to that extent.
Don't have a game, you might as well
Yeah.
just talk to the people.
I agree that they are doing exceptionally well on that front. I have concerns about Star Citizen, and simply because, and friends of ours from other sites are super pumped about this game. But to me, everything I've seen is so spotty. It's like I don't see any interconnection between, like, here's the ships in the hangar, and here's this, and this, and this feature, and this feature, and this. And I don't see the connection between all these things yet. And granted, it's not going to be out anytime soon. But yeah, I'm a little worried about that one. I think you're more concerned than I am on that one, though.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of money.
It's going to be an amazing launch, one way or the other.
True. True. Our question of the week last week, and we'll let you take the first one from Ren the Rose again. What are your thoughts on Sony Online Entertainment being sold? Is it good for the games? Is it good for Sony Online Entertainment, now Daybreak Game? Or is it good for Sony as a whole? So what did the viewers have to say?
All right, Ren the Rose says, SOE being sold means either they get more space to create, or they may have to earn a lot of their own money from their games, so maybe changes to the cash shops. Either way, I would definitely like to watch them closely and see where they head. This could be awesome or not change a thing. Let's watch them and find out. Hopes for the best, but prepare for the worst. And that's probably the right approach. Lousy for, like, an opinion site, but, you know.
Now, you wrote an additional piece on this one a couple of days after the fact on why this sale probably went through. What happened there?
One thing that Michael Pachter said, and I will agree with the comments on it that said Michael Pachter can be quite a bit of a blowhard, but, you know, he's what we've got. So he said that apparently Sony wanted to have more of a mobile focus on their stuff, and maybe that's why SOE doesn't fit into that. They don't really do mobile games. They do more of the hardcore PC games and PlayStation and whatever. So, and I kind of think that's maybe a good thing, that they're not going to, that SOE or Sony was maybe trying to steer them more towards a mobile approach, which in a lot of mobile games is, you know, quick gains through cash shops, spend, get out, and do the next thing, which is not how an MMO works. So I'm kind of optimistic that maybe Smedley and those guys know that that's not what Columbus Nova is going to want from them. So
my big concern here is that they've been bought out by an investment firm.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We
don't
know. It's something we know nothing about. And like Ren said, that could be good, could be bad.
Yep.
Who the heck knows?
Kestis24, investment firms like to get their hands in there and make money, so it's,
sure.
You know.
So did Sony. But, you know.
True. Kestis24, yes, for a long time we're looking at a company with hands-free to make games that are meant to be played, not to be sold. So I'm pretty excited to see if they're finally going to make games that we can log into for fun, not like going to a second work. No more green-eyed Big Brother to make you do cash grabs. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, in my opinion.
If you don't want to have to log into a game for a second job, then never play an MMO again.
Yeah, I don't know if that's... And cash grabs, I mean, there's... When you look at Sony compared to an investment firm, if you had to say which one's probably more interested in money, obviously they both are.
Sure.
But Sony is interested in making a product that consumers will like so that they can make money. Investment firms are looking for companies to do what they think they should do to make money. There's a bit of a difference in methodology there. Go ahead, sir.
All right, from Sir Jaxie Gaming says, SOE being sold to an investment firm is bad news no matter what. It is going to kill EQ next because it means the dumbing down of all their PC games so they can move them to console and mobile, which is exactly what I said Sony wanted to do. So, pick your poison.
Nakiato says, I find this sad for Sony. Yes, it's good because they're selling off parts of the company that aren't making them money. I don't know if that's true.
I'm going to say I don't know if that's necessarily.
Yeah, I don't. But let's go with that assumption for a minute. Maybe Nakiato has inside knowledge that we don't. I don't know. The thing is, it feels more like a missed opportunity than anything. Sony Online Entertainment was a developer focused on making online games for Sony. It's right there in the flippin' name. All but one game Sony Online Entertainment made went to PC only. DC Universe proved that PlayStation fans want online Sony games, especially free ones, as DCUO did pretty well on the PlayStation 3 and 4. Can't argue there. PlanetSide 2 doesn't count yet because it's not been released for the PS4 as of writing this. I agree, it's in beta. All in all, this has the possibility to be good for everyone. If Daybreak can make games at a decent pace and release them for multiple platforms, then more gamers have a chance to experience some pretty good free-to-play games. Let's just hope this isn't the death of unreleased games like EverQuest Next.
I can't believe it. I can't believe EverQuest Next is going to die. Now, if you're like the last guy who says, "Oh, it's going to be terrible now," that's one opinion, but it's going to happen. You could. It's still going to. It's not the agency. They're not going to cancel it. Part of the way down the road.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't talk about this last week is the EverQuest IP changes hands again.
Oh, yeah.
Question of the week for next week: none. There is no question because there is no show next week, and it's kind of silly to have your question answered and then give you the answers that you gave us 2 weeks ago. So here's what I want you to do: put your weekly bombs in there instead. Dub bomb for something great, A bomb for something terrible. It doesn't even have to be gaming related. Hell, we'll throw it in here. Whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about. Until next week, Mr. Winter, where can everybody follow you, sir?
Find me on the Twitter at WinterInform. I almost said Twinter. On the Twitter at WinterInformal. Streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter. Blog jasonwinter.wordpress.com.
I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Oops. I'm Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. You can follow me on Twitter at MagicMan1, MAGICKMANN1, or come over to MMOBomb.com, sign up for the giveaways, check out the articles there. Remember, no show next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you on the servers.